What's up, movie lovers? Welcome to episode number 41 of Ready Play Movies, your weekly source for everything that's new and exciting in the world of entertainment. Every Tuesday at 6 a.m. Pacific or 9 a.m. Eastern Time, we discuss the top news of the week, notable releases, what we're watching, big topics of the industry, and the movies we love. If you want to write anything to be read on the show, send us an email to readyplaymovies@gmail.com or hit us up at readyplaymovies on Twitter. No matter where you found us, please subscribe to the feed so you can get every new show directly to your device as soon as it posts. And if you like it, please leave us a nice review. This is October 19th, 2021. I'm your host, Louis Menchaca, and joining me today is once again absolutely no one. So it is Sunday for me when I'm recording this podcast. I'm recording it a day early. So yeah, I got my Dallas Cowboys jersey on right now for you video watchers. I'm wearing the jersey because I watched the Cowboys game earlier today, and they won. They beat the New England, and it was a very intense, very nail-biting game where they basically had to go to overtime. And it was very very like, oh my god, it was very worried because I really wanted the Cowboys to win because I have a coworker who's a New England fan, and I wanted to be like, fuck you, you know. But anyways, so all that tangent notwithstanding, it's gonna be a shorter show today. Number one, because it's like one person, but also I want to keep it at an hour long because I want to make it easier for me to edit and put the stuff out. I have to pre-schedule it for Tuesday when it comes up, and the reason why is because I'm going on vacation and I'm literally like flying out of town in the morning. So I want to make things as easy as possible for me, and plus I kind of wanted to just kind of trim the fat, so to speak. I generally tend to have 2 hour long shows. I can do that this week as well. There's enough material to do it. However, I'm not. I actually axed a whole segment. I axed check this out, and I basically integrated check this out into the news. And I axed two of the charts in Netflix and Chill, so that way I can just sort of get through the charts real quick and then keep it moving. So yeah, and I also don't want to really tire my voice out. I did last time with the 2 hour long show. So instead, I just want to just kind of like get through it and just basically talk about really the one thing that's really worth talking about, which is DC Fandome. DC Fandome happened this week, and we'll get to that momentarily. But let's just go ahead and get onto the regular run of show. But actually, there's one other thing of housekeeping I forgot to mention. Is like Troy will be back next week. So he's already talked to me. He's like, yeah, he's gonna come back from Austin. He's back. He'll be back in town, and yeah, I'm very excited because he really wanted to give his thoughts on DC Fandome, and I can understand because he's a huge DC fan. So he'll probably like say it real quick at the beginning of next week's show about his thoughts. But yeah, as far as what I've been watching, I actually haven't been watching much of anything, to tell you the truth. Like, been kind of busy and I haven't had time to watch much of anything. So I have been watching one show and I completely forgot about it on previous shows and stuff like that. So I just sort of it sort of works out because I was like, oh, okay, I have one thing to talk about for impressions. It's a show called Y, like the letter Y, like something like that. Anyways, um, and then making an X with my fingers, but it's more of, I was trying to make a Y. Anyways, Y, The Last Man. And it is a show, it's like an apocalyptic show that's on FX and also on Hulu, where there's this civilization, like kind of like, I think it's based on a graphic novel, I want to say, but it's basically like a virus that just kind of killed every single man, like every single creature on Earth with a Y chromosome. So like rats, lions, giraffes, like humans, like anything with the Y chromosome, like all the males of a species just died and just fell over and died the world over, like all at once. And yeah, I thought it was a very interesting premise for a show. Um, and there's this one character. His name is Yorick, and he just the letter Y kind of starts with the letter Y. He is the only man who didn't die and succumb to the virus. He has a Y chromosome, and he's a very valuable person. He was just a guy, kind of like an average Joe, kind of, well, not really average Joe because there's more to it, but he's just sort of like an average Joe guy who doesn't really. He's kind of a slacker, kind of doesn't really have much going on for himself, like as far as going on in his life. He's still trying to find himself, and all that kind of shit that the early somebody in their 20s kind of like is kind of does and stuff like that. And so now he's catapulted into like the most important person in the world to be alive, and it just so happens like the way his character is like set up is um, he's uh, he's the son of the president of the United States. So it's just very the optics are terrible. Like it's almost like a conspiracy theory, like in and of itself. It's like, oh, you're telling me that the only last remaining man out on planet Earth just so happens to be the president's son, like, like that kind of stuff. There's so much at play, and and it's not even like the president, like the original president's son. It's like the congresswoman who got sworn in as president because of the line of succession, with all the men dying. Like she was the next one at the top of the block as far as like you know possible person to be sworn in. There was like one female cabinet member, but they were thought to be dead because, kind of like in Infinity War when people got Thanos snapped, it's not just the people that snapped that died. It's even just the people that were, driving in the car whenever like, the car crashes happen when the drivers, just disappear. Helicopter crashes when the helicopter pilot, kill is just disappeared. So it's kind of like all of that happening as well. And that's one thing I really hated about the show is that the first episode gives us the apocalypse in the last like 5 minutes. Like I really wanted a whole episode, and granted, I know it's gonna be like budget wise, it's gonna be like hella crazy, but like I can understand why it wouldn't work on a TV budget, but I think that it would have been great if there was a whole episode dedicated to the apocalypse where like just everything's crumbling and falling apart and just pandemonium everywhere. I would have liked to see that. I don't know. It just kind of that interests me. I don't know if that's like, let's say, I'm not trying to say I'm morbid or anything like that. I'm just saying like those 5 minutes of just like the deer in the headlights where certain characters were like just freaking out when shit's like crumbling around them, like that, it was actually interesting, and I would have liked to see more of just like the shock that happens that they just sort of skip by and brush past because they just sort of do like a flash forward like 3 weeks later or 1 month later or whatever, and just sort of like everyone's sort of already picking back the pieces of the puzzle. So they're moving on and trying to like live their lives and stuff like that. And granted, there's still an apocalypse going on, right? There's like power shutting down. They're like losing power, and like there's no men to like keep the infrastructure going and stuff like that. And so yeah, it's a really interesting show. There's only two men in the cast. There's the guy that plays Yorick as the last man, and there's just so happens to be one other guy in the show, but he is not a Y chromosome man. He's a transgendered man. So the actor that's playing him is a real, cis male, but he's playing a transgendered character who's transitioned, and his character struggling with like finding testosterone to inject himself to keep him, you know, masculine and all that stuff. Um, yeah. So with that being said, I just thought that it's a good recommendation. You guys should check it out. It's on Hulu. The whole season is there. Now, the only bad thing about my recommendation is that it comes on the announcement. Like, let's go ahead and put the article up on screen. It comes up on the announcement that Why the Last Man was canceled by FX. So it says that the cancellation comes weeks before its first season debuts its final episode. The news was shattered. The news was shared that Why the Last Man by Why the Last Man showrunner Eliza Clark through her Twitter on Sunday. In her post, Clark thanks FX and the show's creative team for their partnership on the project. She also expresses hope that Why the Last Man will be able to continue its run on a different network. Quote, we have learned that we will not be moving forward with FX on Hulu for season 2 of Why the Last Man. I have never in my life been more committed to a story. There's so much left to tell, Clark wrote. We had a great gender diverse team of brilliant artists led by women at almost every corner of our production. It is the most collaborative, creatively fulfilling, and beautiful thing I've ever been a part of. We don't want it to end. So Why the Last Man premiered with 3 episodes on FX on Hulu on September 13th, and it's adapted from a comic book of the same name. This series follows the survivors of a cataclysmic event that kills every animal on Earth with the Y chromosome except for one cisgender man and his monkey. Oh yeah, there are two males alive in the show. It's his pet monkey also didn't die. That's on his shoulder a lot. The main cast includes Diane Lane, and she plays the president, and Ashley Romans, Olivia Thirlby, and I'll just go ahead and skip along to say Amber Tamblyn because that's the other big name star. Um, and yeah, so I'll go ahead and just end it there as far as the article goes. But yeah, it sucks that the show is getting canceled, and it's such an interesting show. I hope that maybe like a Netflix picks it up or something like that. You know, Netflix always comes in clutch and saves the day on everything. So yeah, that's kind of what's going on with Why the Last Man. I still think you guys should check it out. It's a good show. Um, there's a lot going on as far as plot wise. There's a lot of mysteries going on, and I hope that the way the pace is going. By the way, I think there's like 7 episodes out. I want to say I forgot the number episode count, but I'm caught up. But the the way the pace is going, it it's looking like it's going to end in a cliffhanger because there's no way they're going to be able to resolve a lot of plot threads with how characters can't really travel. Like it's like you got to go somewhere, but you kind of sort of have to go on foot because gasoline is running out and stuff like that or whatever. So yeah. But yeah, that's what I was watching, and I'll have more impressions for you guys next week when I watch some new releases that come out this week. Um, anyways, with that out of the way, we'll go ahead and move on to the news.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
All right, the news. We got to go on to the actual thing that matters the most: DC Fandome. It's the thing that you guys are all here to see and talk about and everything like that. DC Fandome happened this past Saturday. It was like this giant long live stream with this like virtual panels and stuff like that were going on DC Fandome's website. And yeah, I just want to just give like a quick like I don't know reactions or I don't know how to explain it, but it was it's definitely a situation where like when you have like these virtual panels and stuff like or like this virtual presentation, it's like DC had its own E3 is the best way I can explain it, and they it was so long like since they had to do everything from like TV shows, movies, video games, comic books, and other ancillary things and stuff like that. They had so many things to announce. So if you were like a total like DC fan, I mean like a hella DC fan where you watch everything DC from every like show on HBO Max to you know from like Titans and like everything like just animated shit whatever like if you watch anything DC then this would have been like your Christmas, right? But the thing is like I consider myself a DC fan, but I'm not up DC's ass either. You know what I mean? So like for me, there was a lot of lulls in that presentation where like the stuff that interested me or stuff that talked to me was like being like spread out and like very thin, like and sort of sprinkled in throughout all these other announcements and panels that I didn't really care about. So I'm glad I was able to like I was I was working when they were doing the live stream, like the official live stream, and so because I can't like watch the whole thing, I have to like pause the live stream while I'm working, and then like when I get back to like I can unpause, and so what happens is there was often times where I was like disinterested, and I got like was like what the hell I don't care, and I just started like skipping and pressing fast forward. I found doing myself doing that a lot as well. Um, but yeah, they just sort of kept on saying, "Oh, yeah, it's okay, guys. We got Batman coming up. Batman's coming up," and that's the very last thing they do. You know what I mean? Like they just sort of keep on cock teasing you like constantly. But anyways, they're really like there was some cool ass special looks like first looks of the Flash. The Flash movie looks hella interesting. We saw like behind the scenes featurette, a little featurette of making of Aquaman, and there was also a um, a Shazam like behind the scenes, which is like really interesting because the movie had done filmed wrapped filming, and I would have figured that they would have had a trailer to put together in time for DC Fandome. And I know it's got post production, but like I'm pretty sure you can make a teaser based off of shots that you have that require no CGI. So I guess not. So whatever. There was a just a teaser, the most teasiest teaser of Black Adam, of showing, not even showing The Rock as Black Adam because he was draped in like this hood and you couldn't really see his face, but he's like, very ominous and stuff like that. And he just did a freaking Mortal Kombat fatality on somebody, So, um, but yeah. Anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and just read along with this article that comes from Variety. DC's Fandome's hours of free panels, previews, and performances are back with several teases and updated from highly anticipated projects like The Batman. The event is a collection of programming attached to DC properties across all platforms. All Fandome content will be available for a 24-hour period, beginning on October 16th on the event website. But that's not true because I'm pretty sure like everyone can screen grab or re-release their trailers elsewhere. So sure, it's all on YouTube. But anyways, so we this article just sort of gives us like a list of every single trailer. So we got the Batman trailer. That's out. I want to leave that one for last. We shows us the Black Adam thing, and then that was crazy. It's like it's almost sort of setting him up to look like a villain with that teaser. Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. We saw a lot of good featurettes, and we saw like a little documentary style thing of like Jason Momoa on the first day of shooting in July. We saw some more looks at Peacemaker, and Peacemaker looks even interesting as hell. Like with some of they have like he's got a little sidekick called Vigilante, and it looks awesome. It looks like a very good dynamic going on. The Flash movie, oh my God, this is like the most teasiest tease I've ever like. Just like it's kind of funny as Ezra Miller was talking on camera, and he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, we don't have anything to show you guys," and he basically like psyched us out, and he's like, "All right, here's our first look," and it's really pretty much an actual trailer or damn near a trailer. Shazam: Fury of the Gods. We didn't really we got a behind the scenes look, and I hate that. Like, I really was hoping for more than just a behind the scenes look. We got a TV show like CW's The Flash. There's something called the Milestone Initiative, which is a bid to identify new writers and artists with diverse backgrounds in the comic book industry. The effort is a nod to Milestone Media, the now iconic line of comics that was devised by a group of black creators in the early 1990s and published with DC. Milestone Media joined with DC again in February, and it's making a live-action Static Shock movie and the company's first animated feature. Next up is the Suicide Squad Killed the Justice League. That's the game. We saw a better trailer with more shit going on and looks very interesting. It kind of looks like it's taking its cues from like the latest Suicide Squad movie as far as the humor. It looks interesting. Then we got some first looks at like behind the scenes of Superman and Lois, like the set and everything like that. The cast of Supergirl is like I did a panel where they bid farewell. Stargirl has got a little sneak peek with her show coming to the CW. The new Superman motto change. That's an extra news item. He's no longer was it Truth, Justice, and the American Way. It's now Truth, Justice, and a Better Tomorrow. I mean, I don't know. Is it? That's almost like a discussion right there. I wish Troy was, here to say, what he would thought about that. I would like to hear like a take about whether or not Truth, Justice, and the American Way really needed to be retouched. Now, granted, I understand, it's very American centric, yeah, but yeah, if you want to make a global brand, you got to think bigger and broader, and that's why even the movies sort of like, even like the movies up until like I think the Brandon Routh movie and the Henry Cavill movies sort of shied away from that part, like where he said in the editorial rooms like truth, justice, and all that stuff. Doom Patrol. We got a new Doom Patrol season 3 finale look or whatever, as well as it's being renewed for a season 4. The Sandman. So there's a first look at Gwendolyn Christie as Lucifer and Neil Gaiman's adaptation of Sandman Netflix series. Okay. DC's League of Super Pets. We saw like a scene, a little clip. The Batwoman CW series. We got a trailer for season 3. Um, and also Gotham Knights. We saw more from the Court of Owls, like where the like, certain writers are like talking about their adaptation of the Court of Owls storyline. The Legends of Tomorrow. They're celebrating their 100th episode, so they did a 100-second long trailer for it as well. Titans is being renewed for season 4 on HBO Max. I guess they're no longer doing DC Universe Online or like that app or whatever. So they're just doing it all on HBO Max now. It's renewed for season 4. And they showed us a scene from the finale that's airing on October 21st. Harley Quinn's animated show is being worked on, and they gave us a very early look of season 3, and they showed like fucking animatics. Like, I don't know if you know what an animatic is, but it's basically like a storyboard that's sort of very like rough. It's like like a like a live action storyboard is the best way I can explain it. And I don't think I'm not a fan of animatics, like showing that publicly because it's sort of like it's not a good first look. I think it's something to show when you're working on something, but like it's too rough. It's like a rough draft. It's like scratch work. They showed the new trailer for Young Justice Phantoms, which is like shows some of the grown-up heroes in action. So the Young Justice heroes are grown up. And there's something called Naomi. Don't know what that is. Catwoman Hunted, which is a DC animated movie coming out early next year. Pennyworth. Didn't even know that was even a show. But yeah, Alfred has his own show on HBO Max. Shit, everybody has a show on HBO Max if anything. And then something from Sweet Tooth. I guess they're working on Sweet Tooth season 2 for Netflix. And the star of the show, he answered questions about them shooting the second season. So yeah, I mean overall, I mean like there were some cool bangers like Gotham Knights and like the 2 games that they had were really dope. Um, and like Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, and Gotham Knights were definitely stuff that I was personally interested. And of course, the Flash didn't delivered and the Batman delivered. Now this is like the big main one is like the Batman trailer. That's the thing that everyone's talking about. And I gotta say that I've been seeing a lot of positive reactions online, but also one of my closest friends, they were saying that it looks very cliche or whatever, and I'm like, what the fuck? I guess his standard, is different. But for me, I mean, it just looks like very like Arkham City, very Arkham, you know, Arkham Asylum kind of looking like very gritty. It's like the Christopher Nolan, like it's like a hybrid. It's like if you do Christopher Nolan like realistic, gritty, realistic reboot, but also sort of like do a little of like Man of Steel, like extra eccentricities and stuff like that, and sort of just blend them together. You sort of get like this realistic dark noir film, and that's very like rough around the edges, very lo-fi, but also like just I don't know. It's really hard to explain, but I hope you guys are following my logic. Um, yeah, I'm very much interested. This looks like a like day one kind of thing, where it's like I'm gonna sort of be there opening weekend. I am very much on board with Robert Pattinson's Batman. I wasn't really like how do I put this? I wasn't really feeling Robert Pattinson at first, but then he can turn it around. He shows that he's like, and he's not just the guy from Twilight. He shows he's an actor and stuff like that. Things like Tenet, sort of prove that, right? And so I had no qualms. After a while, I had no qualms about Robert Pattinson, acting the part, from like Bruce Wayne, like very like dark and gritty and just like intense. Like even that first trailer sort of sold me on his intensity, right? And the second trailer now showed me or sold me on the physicality. I mean, that was the one thing I was like I had a hiccup on, where it's like, yeah, but he didn't really bulk up, for like he didn't get jacked like Ben Affleck did, for BVS. Like I wanted like Batman the animated series, big bulky Bruce Wayne. You know what I mean? Like I wanted that, and I'm not sure like Ben Affleck was like the closest to like that kind of thing. Christian Bale, he's very like slender and stuff like that. He's got physique, but he's very slender. Ben Affleck when he bulked up, when he was like freaking hitting what is it, P90X or whatever the fuck, like not like in actual, but like basically a P90X, where he's just like just jacked. I think that was that kind of idealistic Bruce Wayne that I was wanting. Like it's like you sort of have to choose between like when you have a Spider-Man, it's like a really good Peter Parker or a really good Spider-Man, but not both. It's like try to sort of do that thing where like he plays a billionaire, a businessman billionaire in real like his character Bruce Wayne, and sort of, but when he's like really big in a fucking like suit, does he look like he belongs? That kind of stuff. I don't know. But yeah, they straight up made him bulletproof, like just like he's like just taking shots, like duh, duh, just walking through them. Oh, there's this one scene, and I feel like more movies are like copying that scene where like a character, the hero, or I guess a character would just walk down a hallway in very dark, low lighting, and just be very like fucking ominous and just badass. Like ever since Star Wars Rogue One did that hallway scene with Darth Vader where he's just mowing down um, the rebels in that hallway with like, and the only thing that's really lighting it is the lightsaber, and he's just chopping everyone down and going through them and just using the force and all that shit. Like there was a version of that scene. Like I've seen a version of that scene in other movies, and I can't think of them off the top of my head right now. But they did that shot where like Batman is going down the hallway and he's going and killing or like knocking everyone out or whatever, and all you see that's lighting up the hallway is like the muzzle fire from a machine gun. So like that fire thing, like that's all you see, and it's like so badass and so intense. And it's like, yeah, I like it, but at the same time, it's like we all know where it's inspired from, that kind of stuff. So I really liked it, and yeah, that's really all I wanted to say. And I'm sure when Troy comes back, we'll go more back and forth. But overall, like I don't know how to put it. I do think that like my patience was tested with the presentation. Um, I think there was that to be enjoyed. Like if I were a Superman and Lois fan and I watched the show, if I was still watching The Flash, if I was watching, you know, what else is on here? If I was watching Doom Patrol, like if I was watching like the shows on HBO Max, like these are like season threes and season four announcements that are happening here. Like I would be very much inclined to be like, holy yeah, holy shit, yeah, fuck yeah, that kind of stuff. But yeah, I don't, I haven't, I'm not like, what do you call it, like anchored to these things and stuff like that. But I mean, with something like this, rising tide lifting all boats. I'm pretty sure like these things, put these things on my radar, and I'm more inclined to check it out. You know what I mean? So like, I think that that's sort of what it's about. It's about like having all your brands synergize with each other and sort of, you know, hype each other up by association. So, anyways, yeah, that is DC Fandome, and of course, the link to this article is in the description and in the show notes. So that way, you guys can watch all the trailers in that article that are just nice and nicely piecemealed out. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next story, which is Halloween kills it at the box office. Um, this comes from Variety, and it says it scores a $50.4 million debut, and the last duel bombs at the box office. So this is recording on Sunday, by the way. These are the estimates, the official studio estimates right now. They generally tend to be very close, like not too far off on Sunday estimates. The Monday numbers are like the final numbers that come in after the estimates are done, and it could move like a plus or one a million or whatever. Uh, so yeah, like Sorry about that. Okay, I'm not recording on Monday, so hopefully these things are turn out to be accurate. If anything, more often than not, the estimates tend to underestimate because they want to be conservative. Like studios tend to want to be conservative, so maybe by it's when it comes in on the final numbers on Monday, maybe it'll hit 52 million or something like that. But anyways, Universal and Blumhouse Halloween Kills topped the box office this weekend with 50.4 million dollar debut, giving theater owners hope that the exhibition industry is experiencing a fall resurgence. That's a bloody good showing for Halloween Kills, considering that the film is being released simultaneously in theaters and on demand via Peacock, NBC's Universal's in-house Netflix challenger. That kind of distribution pattern has depressed ticket sales in the recent months, with films like Warner Brothers' Space Jam: A New Legacy and The Suicide Squad failing to resonate with moviegoers when they were made available at the same time on HBO Max. Halloween Kills scores the highest grossing opening weekend for a streaming day and date premiere, besting Godzilla vs. Kong, which came in out the gate with $31.6 million, despite bowing on HBO Max at the same time it debuted in cinemas. The genre and this particular franchise lends itself to in theater experience. People want to be scared together. Our core audience was eager and enthusiastic, said Jim Orr, Universal's president of domestic distribution. An exclusive theatrical release wasn't enough to save The Last Duel. Huh. So The Last Duel was actually theater exclusive, and it still didn't, do it for the box office. It's a lavish historical epic starring Adam Driver, Jodie Comer, and venturing very far afield from the Cambridge Saudi milieu that made them stars in Good Will Hunting. Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. Okay, I couldn't follow the logic in that sentence, but anyways, let's continue. The drama, which is set in 14th century France, bombed, grossing a pallid $4.8 million. That's a disastrous result, given that the film's cost north of $100 million. What the fuck? $100 million for that movie? It's a drama. Oh my God. As well as a sign that older audiences remain skittish about returning to theaters when COVID and its variants are still circulating. More than half of the audiences for the more than half of the audience for The Last Duel was comprised of ticket buyers over the age of 35. In contrast, just 27% of the audience for Halloween Kills hailed from that demographic. The bulk of horror film opening weekends crowds were younger men who have shown the greatest willingness to see movies on the big screen in the pandemic era. The Last Duel was inherited by Walt Disney after it bought 20th Century Fox Studio in 2019. Ridley Scott, who also oversaw this fall's House of Gucci, directed this movie. Okay. Critics were kind, but that couldn't save the picture, which limped to a fifth place finish. Whew, okay. Elsewhere, MGM's No Time to Die earned $24.3 million in its second weekend, good enough for a second place finish. That's a drop of 56%, which is roughly in line with how other James Bond films like Spectre and Skyfall have performed in their sophomore frame. It brings the film's domestic haul to $99.5 million, a respectable result during a pandemic. However, the problem for 007 sequel is that it was greenlit in pre-COVID times and carries a massive $250 million price tag, along with $100 million more in promotional spending. So yeah, we talked about that last week, or I talked about that last week by myself. I said it needs to make about $800 million to break even. So yeah, it's No Time to Die is definitely was in a situation where you sort of have to sort of monitor it week by week to see what's going to happen. Um, who knows? I mean, honestly, to tell you the truth, like I'm a little disappointed by that 56%. I think anything over 60 is disastrous, right? Anything over 60% is disastrous. 50 to 60 is expected slash in line slash normal. Anything like 49% and below drop is like amazing, right? It's like this, like the standard, the gold standard for like a true success. And the fact that they didn't really hit that though the 40% mark or anything in the 40s is definitely troubling for the profitability of that movie. But yeah, surprise. Halloween Kills gets the title for the highest grosser, the highest opening weekend for a day and date release. Now knocking Godzilla versus Kong off that throne. Um, Surprising, but also, you know, does it really count? You know what I mean? Like, who the hell? I don't know anyone who has Peacock. Like, who has Peacock? And you know what I mean? Like, it almost kind of seems. It's kind of like that idea of whenever a tree falls in a forest, but there's no one around to hear it. Did it? You know, did it fall? You know, that kind of stuff. And like, I really want to know. Like, did did people actually watch this? Did anyone actually watch Halloween Kills at home, like on streaming? Like, that's a. I kind of want to know the answer to that question. Like, um, but I real talk though, you know, this I did consider like buying, you know, Peacock and like Paramount Plus just to have more streaming services under my in my Infinity Gauntlet, and yeah, maybe that'll happen soon. But just throwing that out there. Um, but yeah, the last duel was very surprising. I think with that movie, with it being the genre it is, I would have wanted to see like a budget maybe under $60 million at most. Um, yeah, I mean, it looked like you have three or four big actors that probably cost them a lot. You have Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Jodie Comer, and Adam Driver. So they probably cost a lot, granted. But like you had, I'm pretty sure that it costs a lot of money to make wardrobes that are very period specific, or you know, set designs that are very like old timey and stuff like that. So yeah, it's definitely definitely bad, and it's a situation where like we talked about the demographics, you know, especially with even No Time to Die. Like the demographics show that movies that you know, target younger audiences are more successful because younger audiences are more willing to throw caution to the wind when it comes to going out. I mean, I even know that from my own personal experience in my own friend groups and stuff like that. So, anyways, we'll go ahead and keep it moving. Next up is this comes from Screen Rant. Tom Holland views No Way Home as an end of the Spider-Man franchise. Tom Holland explains how his time as Peter Parker may well be very different as he previews the game-changing events of Spider-Man No Way Home. Um, Tom Holland opens up about the highly anticipated Marvel movie, explaining how it represents the end of the Homecoming trilogy. Ever since he joined the Marvel Cinematic Universe in the role of Peter Parker, Holland has been involved in some of the MCU's biggest moments, from Captain America Civil War to Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. But there's a case to be made that his upcoming outing in No Way Home will be his biggest yet. Set to debut in theaters on December 17th, the third installment in the franchise is directed by John Watts. Will pick up after Peter's identity is revealed at the end of Far From Home. Spoilers. Um, with his life turned upside down, Peter asks Doctor Strange to help restore his secret identity with magic, but as teased in the record-breaking No Way Home trailer, this fix doesn't seem to go according to plan. Zendaya, John Favreau, Jacob Batalon, and Marissa Tomei will also be reprising the roles from the previous Homecoming movies. Additionally, they'll be joined by Alfred Molina, Jamie Foxx, and the actors played the villains in the previous Spider-Man franchises, which has led to speculation about the Marvel movie, about what the Marvel movie will consist of. In the new comments shared with EW, Holland has definitively added to that speculation. The actor confesses that while filming, No Way Home was treated as the end of the Homecoming franchise, which began in 2017. He went on to explain that if the actors were lucky enough to reprise their roles in the future, they'll be playing very different versions of their characters. Holland's quote is included below. Quote, "We are all treating No Way Home as the end of a franchise, let's say. I think if we are lucky enough to dive into these characters again, you'd be seeing a very different version. It would no longer be the Homecoming trilogy. We would give it some time to try to build something different and tonally change the films. Whether that happens or not, I don't know. But we are definitely treating No Way Home like it was coming to an end, and it felt like it." Yeah, I'm gonna sort of end it there here because it's it's definitely how do I put this? I think he's got like one more movie in his contract. I think I was seeing something he's got one more Marvel movie in his contract. But that almost sort of like kind of sort of um, how do I put this? It sort of makes sense in a way where you can like I'm gonna just say like I'm gonna repeat someone's speculation that I saw online. I don't know I don't remember who I saw it from, so I can't give you credit. Um, but it was just actually I've seen multiple podcasters, YouTubers have like said it, but Tom Holland's Spider-Man, he might just get yeeted off of the MCU um, after the events of No Way Home. So like if you think about um, the post credit scene in Venom, Let There Be Carnage, and yeah, I'm not gonna spoil it there, but you sort of have like there's enough to sort of warrant like what if he fucks things up and he has literally no way home. Like he is now in a different multiverse other than the mainline MCU, and he has no way home, and he's just gonna live out his days in a new reality. And that way, you have a situation where if Spider-Man doesn't get renewed with the Marvel sharing rights agreement thing, then that's how Sony can, make their Sony's properties of Spider-Man characters or a Spider-Man cinematic universe without Marvel being involved. That would be an interesting way of like, dancing around their situation. And I think that's possible. I'm not gonna um, I don't know. I think I might even be okay with it. Writing your way around these kind of situations, right? So that's an interesting way of him saying about like, oh, it's the end, and you can do that. It's like you can either read it that way or read it the other way, where it's just the end of a trilogy. It's we're gonna take a break from Spider-Man movies, and then we'll come back and do more Spider-Man stuff. But it won't be like the same. You know what I mean? Like it'll be a 10 years later, kind of like college years kind of stuff. Like I would imagine that would be the case. Or maybe if like Spider-Man or any Spider-Man characters, they show up in other MCU projects, kind of like how we never really had an Iron Man 4, but Tony Stark kept appearing in other people's movies like Captain America 3 and all that stuff. So, just food for thought. It's all speculation at this point. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what else to say about that. So we'll go ahead and keep it pushing. This next story comes from Variety, and it says that Ted Sarandos doubles down on Dave Chappelle's defense. Quote, content doesn't directly translate to real world harm. So that's much to the chagrin of a lot of people that, protest. Netflix co CEO Ted Sarandos said a lengthy missive to the entire company following the mounting controversy around the new original special from comic Dave Chappelle. After addressing top leadership in a Friday memo, Sarando sent an email on Monday to all staff, some of whom have increasingly expressed outrage over jokes about the trans community in Chappelle's The Closer, and have scheduled a walkout protest as a response, which already happened at the time of this recording. So the walkout protest happened. So that's an update there. Quote, we know that a number of you have been left angry, disappointed, and hurt by our decision to put Dave Chappelle's latest special on Netflix, Sarandos wrote in an email obtained by Variety. With The Closer, we understand that the concern is not about offensive to some content, but titles which could increase real-world harm, such as further marginalizing already marginalized groups, hate, violence, etc. Last year, we heard similar concerns about 365 days and violence against women. While some employees disagree, we have a strong belief that content on screen doesn't directly translate to real world harm, he said. This quote, the strongest evidence to support that this violent, the strongest evidence to support that, yeah, that, sorry, I'm gonna start over. The strongest evidence to support this is that violence on screen has grown hugely over the last 30 years, especially with party shooter games, and yet violent crimes has fallen significantly in many countries. Adults can watch violence, assault, and abuse, or enjoy shocking stand-up comedy without it causing them to harm others. He continues. While when contacted by Variety for comment, queer media watchdog GLAAD said it was founded 36 years ago because media representation has consequences for LGBTQ people. Authentic media stories about LGBTQ lives have been cited as directly responsible for increasing public support for issues like marriage equality. But films and TV would have been filled with stereotypes and misinformation for us. I'm sorry, stereotypes and misinformation about us for decades, leading to real world harm, especially for trans people and LGBTQ people of color. Ironically, the documentary Disclosure on Netflix demonstrates this quite clearly. That's some fucking fighting words that Glad, has right there. They just throwing like that little shade, that little extra burn, like that's actually interesting that Netflix's own content, like their own documentary that um, they either produced or whatever, but it's on their platform, even sort of harps on that, and they're like, yeah. That Surroundos would wade into a debate about potential harmful effects of content is notable, given that those who condemn Chappelle's jokes have specifically cited the physical danger that anti-trans ideology poses to the community. What we object to is the harm that content like this does to the trans community, especially trans people of color, and very specifically black trans women. People who look like me aren't being killed. I'm a white woman, wrote out trans Netflix employee Tara Field in a now viral Twitter thread last week. Make no mistake, Chappelle's alleged jokes do not impact hypothetical people. They, in fact, cause real harm to transgender and non binary viewers and black LGBTQ youth who may have once looked up to him as a role model, wrote queer author and attorney Preston Mitchum on Wednesday. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, I've sort of like. I gave my thoughts last week about the whole like debate and stuff like that. I just thought like what do you call it? A joke is a joke. Chappelle just he just sort of gives his insight and his little like comedic lens. And that's almost like a whole other topic on itself. Like comedy is supposed to sort of be shocking. Like it's supposed to like challenge you, I guess, and it's supposed to be done in a way that's sort of like safe. You know what I mean? Like it's like a safe space. Like not trying to like make that a thing. Like, oh, it's a safe space. No, no, no. It's like it's an agreement. When you go and watch a stand-up special or whatever, you're watching a comedian up on stage. You're just sort of not there to laugh. You're there to laugh, but you're also not there to be offended. You sort of have like this. What do you call it? An agreement, like a silent, unwritten agreement, where you're not gonna really like take everything they say at face value. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of like a thing where it's like a lot of things that are funny tend to be hyperbole, and it's like an unwritten understanding that you know that it's a sort of heightened embellishment. You know what I mean? Like even when I talk about like things whenever things happen between me and my coworkers at work, I have a coworker that would constantly embellish the truth. Where, like whenever something happened, like between like a conversation that took place, but then whenever they recount it to someone else who wasn't there, they just sprinkle in like a little extra like embellishments of just things to make it funnier, to make it more than what it actually was. You can't just tell the story. You gotta sweeten it up too. You gotta you gotta make it interesting to sound or make it interesting to listen to. So you gotta make it funny. You gotta make a hook. You know, and that's sort of what I think about when I think about stand-up specials. I don't think they are intend to do harm and stuff like that. Like I think the whole thing about video games violence, causing real world violence, I think that's been largely debunked, so, and there's been many studies about that, and like I don't think like I'm gonna watch like, you know, disaster shit, like it's like that's like saying like if I were to watch Saw, like all the Saw movies all at once in one day, then I'm gonna become like a sociopath and who wants to, do kills and shit like that, and want to set up elaborate traps for people, my elaborate death traps for people to fall into. You know what I mean? Like that's not a thing that I expect for movies to do. And there is a bit of a truth though in what they're saying as well. Like I do want to, you know, I want to also like acknowledge that movies and video games have a way of making people feel empathy. You know, um, I think when you watch like a movie where like there's like a character who's bad, like think of like Joaquin Phoenix's Joker film. A character who isn't a hero or a protagonist, but they are. You see from their perspective, and you sort of empathize with their situation and why they do the bad things they did. So I think that there's like a, how do I put this? There's a there is a truth, but it's also not like the truth that you would expect. I think that when you empathize with somebody, you sort of feel for them, and you have a better understanding, or you don't really cast as much judgment. I don't think feeling empathy is gonna you know make you you know join a violent cause. So I think those are two different things. So yeah, it's an interesting little discussion. I don't really have much to say other than that. I just sort of spinning my wheels here, and I don't know. Like I'm gonna also just say that I am. I'm also not gonna. I also don't want to like say anything definitive either because I don't know where I truly stand. I'm just sort of like thinking out loud here. Um, like I don't want to you know, say anyone say I don't want to say fuck you to anyone who thinks otherwise. You know what I mean? Like that's like I'm not here to say that either. I'm just sort of like spinning my wheels here and kind of like expressing my thoughts, and I don't want to begrudge or belittle anyone else's thoughts because I know it's a sensitive matter too. By the way, and I still haven't watched the Dave Chappelle special either. So yeah, um, we'll go ahead and move on to the extra news. Number one, Mandalorian starts production on season 3. Number two, Marvel's Eternals sets advanced ticket sales records, beating out Black Widow and Shang-Chi. Number three, Jack Ryan adds Michael Pena to season 4, and they were also renewed for season 4. Number four, Dune will debut 24 hours earlier than its theatrical debut. So, Dune is out in theaters this Friday for new releases. You can watch it on Thursday on HBO Max. Um, Number five, Indiana Jones 5 set pictures suggest time travel because there appears to be Roman soldiers in period-specific gear. Number six, Ryan Reynolds says that he's taking a little sabbatical from movie making. Number seven, Superman changes his motto from truth, justice. He changes his motto to truth, justice, and a better tomorrow. Number eight, the Golden Globe Awards are set for January 9th, with or without a telecast partner. Number 9, Netflix projects Squid Game will generate $891 million in value, according to leaked data. And number 10, this is the box office report as usual. I'm just going to go ahead and bring up the actual projections up on screen. As you can see, Halloween Kills debuts at number 1 for $50 million. No Time to Die is at number 2 with $24 million, and it's at $99 million. Venom Let There Be Carnage made $16 million, making its total at $168 million. And Shang-Chi is in the number 6, made another $3 million. It now reaches, it's now sitting at $218 mil. So yeah, that's it for the extra news, and I'm just going to go ahead and say, I'm going to bring up the Indiana Jones set pictures because I thought that looks really interesting. Like, you have, Harrison Ford looking, he's sitting on his ass on the ground. I don't know why. But also you can see here some motherfucking Roman soldiers. And I really don't know how I feel about the idea of Indiana Jones time traveling to like ancient times or whatever. There's also another photo here where they're on a rowboat, like manually rowing. I don't think there's like a situation where like in the 1940s or 50s or whatever time they're supposed to be set where like people were LARPing. So that's not a thing at that time. So, Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, we did Aliens in Indiana Jones 4, but that movie was trash. But ancient Roman times going back. So here's the thing. When I heard the headline about time travel, like Indiana Jones time traveling, I thought they were talking about, like, my first thought was time traveling to the present. But no, we're doing the other thing instead. So time traveling backwards. So yeah, whatever. As far as other stuff to react to, you know, Dune. So here's the thing: movies, when they come out on Friday, they really come out on Thursdays. They tend to have um, the debut be on Thursday night sneaks. So it used to be Thursday at midnight. Like it was like a, what do you call it? Like a slow crawl, like over time. It used to be midnight. You have to wait until midnight because it's Friday. You know what I mean? Uh, and then now they started doing the thing where, like, oh, let's push it. Let's do 10 p.m. 10 p.m. because people have to work the next day. People, there's, you gotta, like, you know what I mean. Like there's like the sort of trying to, like, push the envelope. So like they do 10 p.m. sneaks, and then it got to the point where they started doing 8 p.m. sneaks, and I think the last time they left off is 7 p.m. So now when you movie comes out on Friday and it's got like it's like a popular enough movie, then they'll do the night before or the day before, starting at 7 p.m. and then they'll do like several show times. Maybe they won't even do a midnight show because the theater closes at 10 p.m. So they'll do like a 9 o'clock show, and then and that's it. So those are your Thursday night preview sneak whatever's. And so I don't know. I'm not a fan. I mean, I am a fan. I'm not a fan. Like on the one hand, like getting to sleep, like getting to sleep as far as, like, I do work on Fridays, so if I were to watch a movie on Thursday night, I don't have to, like, be like very sleepy like in the next day. Like especially when I did Thursday night sneaks when I was in high school, and I'm like, and it's like I have to be up at school in the morning and shit. Like it affects me. But there's like a certain, like, sacredness to like a midnight crowd because everyone is in that theater is there because they're like passionate fans, and there's like an energy in the air that you just can't capture. You know what I mean? Um, so yeah, there's that. Um, so I'm pretty sure there's gonna be Thursday night 7 p.m. shows, but I think that the time that it's gonna go live is Thursday at 5 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Eastern. So for, like, in theory, if you were to catch, like, advanced ticket sales for Thursday night 7 p.m. show, if there is, which I don't know if there is, and there is, I really don't know. But I'm assuming that there's a sneak, a Thursday night sneaks, that you would actually be able to watch for the first time ever, before anyone, like, before, like, made public. You can watch it on HBO Max before being able to watch it in the big screen on the theater. I think that's really weird, and it's almost kind of like a situation where, like, I remember there was like the whole lawsuit thing was happening. Is Dune even going to be on HBO Max? Is it going to be the exception to the rule? You know what I mean? Like, I think that with Dune being on HBO Max, is it going to affect the box office? Is it going to, like, take away? Is it going to fuck everything up? And I think that with even this, with it being made available earlier than than theaters, does it also, give people less incentive to watch it in theaters? You know what I mean? So, is there even gonna be an uptick? Is there even gonna be more subscriptions to HBO Max because of this? Like, I don't know. I hope. I don't know. It just, the logic here is off. I would have preferred it to just be Friday and stuff like that, or even Friday at midnight. Where it's like, whatever. Um, but yeah, so I'm gonna also just say real quick about the Golden Globes. I think it's kind of hilarious that they're announcing that they're gonna go through with it, stuff like that. Um, I hope they find a telecast partner because it would be really, really weird for them to do a banquet, and we find out later through a press conference, or, like, what do you call it, a press memo, or whatever those things they call them, where they just send out a little paragraph, a little email to the press outlets, and they report on it. As far as Squid Game is so popular. Like, it's got so much eyes, and I guess that valuation, it's like a, with how much eyeballs, I guess, that was on the show, with how much subscriptions that were added. I think that $891 million in value is not saying that it garnered $891 million. I think it's more of like evaluation of the their metrics or whatever, you know. So I think it's either it's either the most watched thing on Netflix ever, or it's the second most watched thing on Netflix ever. I forgot what the number one was. It was probably on its way to beating that number, and it's also a situation where I heard like a couple weeks ago where it's like the show was so popular that it crashed South Korea's internet, and that certain companies, internet companies of South Korea, were suing Netflix for fucking up their bandwidth. So that's how popular that show was. So yeah, that's we'll go ahead and leave it at there for the extra news. I know I'm sort of like rushing through the show, but I sort of want to get going. So we'll go ahead up and wrap it up with the last two segments of the day. Let's go ahead and move on to Netflix and chill. So for Netflix and chill, we normally do the charts, but I'm only going to do two charts. Two Netflix charts, and then I'll give you guys a recommendation of what to watch on Netflix, actually. So finally, no longer at number one. Uh, yeah, let me just go ahead and say at number one, You is number one. And I tried pointing to the camera right there. It's like, you are number one, yeah, like kind of stuff. But no, it's the name of the show. The name of the show is called You, like YOU. You is number one, and it's because a new season came out this past Friday. I think I said it last week during the public service PSA. And then so finally, Squid Game is off of its throne, and sucks. I would have liked to see how long it could stay in number one, especially because the Netflix charts tend to be very volatile. They tend to like there tends to not be staying power unless your name is Coco Melon. But anyways, it's Netflix, whatever. Netflix charts be like that. So at number two, we got Squid Game, and let's just see if it stays at number two. You know, let's see how long it stays in the top three. You know, number three is Made. Number four is Shameless. Number five is called The Forgotten Battle. Number six is Dave Chappelle's The Closer. Number seven is The Guilty. Number eight is Going in Style, which is a Morgan Freeman movie. Number nine is My Name. Number 10 is The Great British Baking Show. Those are the top 10 things on Netflix, shows and movies combined. Now, if we filter out the shows, we are left with the top 10 movies that are popular on Netflix. So if you 8 of those things were shows, so only 2 things carry over. The Forgotten Battle at number 1, Going in Style at number 2. The rest is Shark Dog's Fantastic Halloween. I guess that makes sense for the month of October. My Little Pony, A New Generation. Number 5 is Legacy of Lies. Number 6 is The Guilty. Number 7 is Titanic. Number 8 is Something Borrowed. Number 9, again at number 9, is Jumanji, the 1995 movie starring Robin Williams. R.I.P. to him. Number 10 is LOL The Surprise, the movie. So, anyways, my recommendation for the week is something you can watch on Netflix. It is a movie from 1995, directed by Robert Rodriguez, and it stars Antonio Banderas and Selma Hayek when she was definitely peak Selma Hayek. You know, she was at her hottest. I would say between Desperado and between what is it? What's that vampire one? From Dusk Till Dawn. Yeah, that's the one. Between those two movies, like, you know, that was definitely Salma Hayek at her hottest. And it's a movie about a desperado. He's like this mariachi guy. He's played by Antonio Banderas, and I really don't even know what the movie's about, to tell you the truth. Like, I guess he gets caught up in some fucking drug thing. I don't know. Like, I really don't know what the movie's about. I remember the movie pretty well. Like, there's a lot of memorable scenes that happen. Like, there's this one cool ass action fight that happens at the end of the movie, or towards the end of the movie, where like he calls his 2 other mariachi friends that are like also, you know, in the biz as far as like being hitmans and stuff like that. And he has this one guy has they all carry like guitar cases, right? They have like they all have guitars, but inside the cases there were actually guns. So one of the guys had like a rocket launcher built into it, so it's like a rocket launcher guitar case, and the other one had a guitar case machine gun, and they would just like brrr, it was kind of hilarious. It's like really awesome. It's very stylistic. And then whenever Antonio Banderas has puts his hands up or whatever, he had guns up his sleeve, and so he can just go like and just like start shooting people and stuff like that. There's this like one scene where like I guess they were trying to ambush Antonio Banderas' character, and like he was asleep, and Selma Hayek was on top of him, and she was just singing on the guitar with her eyes closed and just sort of like being sexy or whatever. And then um, there's these two guys that are like from both the left and the right. They're like you can see their shadow on the wall, like kind of like see through, like those like very Japanese kind of thing, and they're like coming in and stuff like that, and they're like circling through, trying to make their way to the door, and then you see how he wakes up and sees the shadows, and so he gets both of his guns, and he's sort of like pointing the guns and following them, and so finally he points his guns directly forward, facing forward, right at Selma Hayek, and then she opens her eyes right as and all she sees is him pointing his guns at her, and she's like, "Oh my god!" and freaks out, gets out of the way, and shoots right behind her, and shoots at two people or whatever. So there's that scene. There's also a scene of like a little boy dying, and I was like, that one hit me hard because I would think I was his age or about his age. Seeing a little kid die on screen was like, what the fuck? You generally tend not to see that. Um, but yeah, like it was like a very cool, like it was a cool movie, just cool. Like he just a lot of style, um, and yeah, I could not tell you what it's about. I just know I've seen it back in the day, and it's action. It's got I don't say romance. I'm not gonna say romance. He gets the girl kind of stuff. There's an explosion. There's a cool explosion where Antonio Banderas and Salma Hayek were walking away from an explosion, looking really cool. So so it's kind of funny. I think I was like, how old was I in 1995? I was 7. Yeah, so and I don't think a 7-year-old should be watching that kind of movie, but my parents brought me to the theaters, whatever. So, but yeah, that's all I can tell you what the movie's about. It's about cool people and explosions, and it had a sequel, by the way, that had Enrique Iglesias as well, and I think it was called Once Upon a Time in Mexico, if I want to say it. I don't know. But anyways, Desperado, go check it out on Netflix. I think I might have to check it out just to get my memory jogged or whatever what the movie's about. But I really liked it. I think you guys would too. So, yeah. We'll go ahead and keep it moving to finish things out with new releases.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
So with new releases, really interesting thing is that there are 3 new releases, and all 3 of them, in their own right, could have been a pick of the week on another week. You know what I mean? Like they all could have, if it was like a little less stiff competition, that they all could have gotten the crown for pick of the week. I'm gonna watch 2 of these things between now and next show, so I'll be giving you my impressions on 2 of these things. Maybe all 3 if I watch. I don't know. First up is Dune. It comes out this Friday on October 22nd in theaters and on HBO Max October 21st. It's the synopsis reads: Paul Atreides, a brilliant and gifted young man born into a great destiny beyond his understanding, must travel to the most dangerous planet in the universe to ensure the future of his family and his people, as malevolent forces explode into conflict over the planet's exclusive supply of the most precious resource in existence. Only those who can conquer their own fear will survive. So, big ensemble cast, a lot of movie stars. The film stars Timothée Chalamet, Rebecca Ferguson, Oscar Isaac, Josh Brolin, Stellan Skarsgård, Dave Bautista, Zendaya, Jason Momoa, and Javier Bardem. Not to be outdone, they were like, "Oh, you got movie stars? Okay, well, we have even more movie stars because The French Dispatch comes out in theaters this Friday on October 22nd, and they have Timothy Chalamet in their cast. So booyah! So Timothy Chalamet has two movies coming out in the same weekend. Really interesting. That's going to be like quite the press junket, where he's going on interview shows and late night shows, and he's got to promote two things. So yeah, The French Dispatch is the Wes Anderson directed movie that got that standing ovation at the film festival we covered a while back, and it's, we were talking about it a lot, about buzzing about about this movie. And so um, The French Dispatch, I didn't even know this, but this movie is an anthology. It's got like three or four stories in one, so it's like all of these movie stars, they're not all like in one continuous like story. It's rather like in vignettes where you see like a small group of these actors in a vignette, and then they move on to the next vignette. So that's interesting. I didn't know that. So although this movie star cast list I'm about to read to you is impressive, they all don't share scenes with each other. So just keep that in mind. So the synopsis reads: a love letter to journalists set in an outpost of an American newspaper in a fictional 20th century French city that brings to life a collection of stories published in the French Dispatch. So there you go. It's a fictionalized 20th century newspaper. So the film stars Benicio del Toro, Adrian Brody, Tilda Swinton, Léa Seydoux, Frances McDormand, Timothy Chalamet, Jeffrey Wright, Jason Schwartzman, Elizabeth Moss, Angelica Houston, Christoph Waltz, Liev Schreiber, Edward Norton, Saoirse Ronan, Bill Murray, and Owen Wilson. Fuck, that is like the who's of like people that Wes Anderson intends to work with the same actors over and over. So, yeah, like Jason Schwartzman, like Mount Rushmore, Owen Wilson, like, and the Darjeeling Limited, like he likes to work with the same actors a lot. So it's like the who's of, and even when you think about like we covered on the podcast before, like Bill Murray, he's going to be on the next Wes Anderson film. He likes to work with the same actors. So yeah. Next up is Ron's Gone Wrong. It comes out in theaters this Friday. Barney is a social, awkward schoolboy who receives a robot named Ron, a walking, talking, digitally connected device that's supposed to be his best friend. Barney is excited to finally have his own robot until his new toy starts hilariously malfunctioning, drawing the attention of a shady executive who wants to protect his company's stock price at all cost. The film stars Zach Galifianakis, Jack Dylan Grazer, Olivia Colman, Ed Helms, and Justice Smith. That's a pretty good cast right there. Like they're all good casts. So yeah, Zach Galifianakis is the Ron. He's the robot. Jack Dylan Grazer is the kid that plays the guy the boy who owns the robot and stuff like that. And Justice Smith, I believe he's playing like the CEO of the tech company or whatever, like a very hipstery, like think Mark Zuckerberg style, like Mark Zuckerberg with Steve Jobs kind of like meshed together kind of stuff, young, hip, whatever. So I heard a lot of good things. I've seen a review already about Ron's Gone Wrong. There's some good social commentary. Now again, it's a kids movie, so you don't go to kids movies for social commentary, but it's there. It's like sort of like weaved into the narrative about like technology and how people tend to like be on their phones a lot. So I think that's like very good. It's kind of like think of like Zootopia, stuff like that. So I'm very interested in watching Ron's Gone Wrong. It looks like the new trailers make it look hilarious, and like when I think of like when I saw in the Netflix movie, what was it? That family movie where like they were all like fighting aliens or whatever, or the robot apocalypse. I forgot the name of that movie. It was like we covered it earlier in the lifespan of the show of the podcast. But when I think it's going to be on that level of that movie, and so yeah, I'll have impressions for you guys for Ron's Gone Wrong and Dune. I don't know if I'll be watching Dune in theaters for the first time or if I'm going to be watching at home on HBO Max. But either way, I will have you guys. I'll talk to you guys about the impressions on that stuff, and I'm pretty sure Troy's probably going to have impressions on Dune. Maybe The French Dispatch. I know he likes the Wes Anderson films, so who knows? I haven't talked to him about that. But yeah, we'll go ahead and wrap up the show. So it is time to end. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Ready Play Movies. Remember, you can reach the podcast by email at readyplaymovies@gmail.com or simply at readyplaymovies on Twitter. I'm on Twitter at chakalaka88. And don't forget to subscribe, give us a review, tell your friends about the show, and all that good stuff. Peace.